In this video, we're going to be going through 67 cruise tips from 67 real cruisers. These tips are going to take you through from embarkation to disembarkation, and we're going to talk about everything in between. If you're taking your first cruise or you'd just like to learn a little bit more about how to maximize your time on board, this is the video for you. I'm going to be acting all 67 tips, but I do have a little something so that you can differentiate between the people. They get sillier and sillier as the video goes on, so make sure you keep watching. Number 1, make sure your passport is up to date and that you have the correct visas for wherever you are going. This is probably the most important tip on this list, because if you get this wrong, there's no point listening to the rest of the tips because you're not going on a cruise. Right now, find your passport and check that it is in date. Check that if you need visas for where you're going, you can get them. Your travel agent or the cruise line should be able to tell you what you need, and if you need any vaccinations too, get those. Number 2, if the cruise line you're cruising with has an app, download it. Most cruise lines now do have apps, and if they do, you don't want to miss out on getting them. They can make your embarkation process faster, they can make it so much easier on board. You can usually check your onboard account on the apps, you can book meals, you can book shows, you can do everything. If the cruise line you're cruising with has an app, make sure you download it. Number 3, if you've made reservations for things like dining and shows, make sure you have the confirmation of these, and it might even be a good idea to print them out. If you have pre-booked things ahead of your cruise, you're definitely going to want proof that you have done so. I've known people before who have got on the ship and been told that they don't have a drinks package or they haven't booked an excursion, and they know that they have at home, but if you're in that situation and you can't prove it, it's very, very tricky. So make sure you check right now that you have got everything that you have paid for, and you've maybe got some evidence too. Number 4, if the cruise line that you're cruising with sends you luggage tags, print them out. Not all cruise lines will send you luggage tags ahead of your cruise, but if they do, it's so much easier to print them out and stick them on your suitcase yourself. I normally bring a roll of sellotape or a stapler with me so that I can do it at the port. They'll take away your bags and you won't see them again until they arrive in your cabin. If you can't do it for any reason, it's not the end of the world, but it does just make the process easier. If you haven't printed your own luggage tags, you'll have to find someone at the port who can print them for you, and it's just a bit of a delay. If you can print them out, definitely do. Number 5, if you have any allergies or intolerances, make sure you tell the cruise line before you board. Cruise lines are really good at dealing with allergies and intolerances, but if you can tell them before you board, it just makes everything easier. If you are vegan or gluten-free, it's always a good idea to tell the cruise line, because they might need to adjust some of the menu to suit you, and they will. They're really good at it, but just make sure you tell them before you board. Number 6, make sure you do as much research about your ship as you can. Now is the perfect time to look at deck plans, to look at YouTube videos, get as much information about the ship that you're cruising on as you can. The worst thing you can do is get on board, get to day 3 or 4 and realise that you have missed something massive on the ship that you would have enjoyed. I've done this many times. Cruise ships are huge, and if you know what you're looking for before you go, it makes things a lot easier. Number 7, have a quick look at the places that you're going to and work out if you want to do ship excursions or explore by yourself. It is much easier to work out these things when you're at home. You don't necessarily have to, and sometimes I do just wing it and do whatever I feel like on the day, but especially if you are going to want to do excursions, look at these before you go on the cruise, so you've just got a rough idea of what you're going to do in each port. It's a good idea to have a look at things like where you actually dock versus where is advertised on your cruise itinerary. Sometimes these can be hours apart, and it's very disappointing if you don't know ahead of time. Number 8, make sure you book your transfers for getting to the cruise port, and also book your car parking if you need it. It's so easy to ignore the fact that you're going to have to get to your cruise. The cruise is the exciting part, but you do need to work out your transport, where you're going to leave your car, if you're going to get the train, if you're going to come down the night before and stay over, you're going to need a hotel. Think about this now. Things will only get more expensive as you get closer to your cruise date. Number 9, take a good 50% of that stuff out of your suitcase. You're not going to wear it. I'm actually very good at packing light. I have done 2-week cruises in just a cabin bag, so this one doesn't really apply to me. But I think especially for first-time cruisers, people think they're going to wear multiple outfits per day, which you probably won't. If you're taking a week cruise, you're not going to need that much more clothes than what you would wear for a week at home. Fair enough, you're going to need maybe some evening dresses or things to wear in port, but you're not going to need that much stuff. What I do is when I've washed my clothes, I just pack them into my suitcase instead of back into my wardrobe. And then I have my most frequently worn clothes, which really are what I want to wear when I cruise. Try not to fall into the trap of overpacking, because you do have to lug that suitcase around. And remember, everything you pack, you're going to have to wash when you get home. Number 10, whatever you do, pack seasickness medication. I don't care if you don't think you're going to get seasick, pack seasickness medication. I actually do get terribly seasick. I have been seasick on a couple of cruises, but it does not put me off. If you're worried about seasickness, I have a post that I will link to in my description all about how you can prevent and treat it. It's not the end of the world, but I would recommend always bringing seasickness medication. You don't want to lose any time on your cruise to feeling rough, and it's so easy just to take one of those magic little pills and you'll feel much, much better. Number 11. When you're packing your clothes, make sure you take loose and comfortable clothes. When you're packing, don't think, oh well, I haven't worn this for 2 years, but maybe this is the time, because this probably isn't the time. You're going to want to be comfortable, you're going to be busy in the day, you're going to be out in the evening going to the theatre and various types of entertainment. You're going to want to be comfortable. I know it's nice to wear nice things, but make sure these nice things are comfortable. And loose is always good, because food is plentiful on a cruise and you might come back a bit heavier than you went on. Number 12, choose your suitcase well and make sure it's distinctive so that you can find it. Cruise ships are huge and sometimes they'll have 5,000-6,000 guests on board and they all have at least one suitcase. So make sure your suitcase is bright red, or it has a cool strap, or a giant picture of your face on it. Just make sure there's something about it that you'll be able to identify. Don't get a normal black suitcase, because you'll be there forever when you try and disembark trying to find it. Number 13. Make sure you pack a carry-on bag for embarkation day. They're going to take away your suitcases and you might still need a few things. I don't normally have anything special in my embarkation day bag, but I keep things like my Mac and my GoPro, which are expensive, that I don't want to leave in my suitcase. I know a lot of people bring their swimwear, they bring a change of clothes, they bring all kinds of things, but just make sure you have a bag that has everything you will need for the day in it. Your suitcases might show up around 2 or 3, but it could be after dinner. So make sure that you are comfortable in what you are wearing and you've got everything you need in your bag, like medications and your passport. Do not put that in your luggage or you'll be in trouble. Number 14, don't forget to pack the cruise essentials. You're going to need your passport, you're always going to need adapters, you're going to need your phone, you're going to need a charger, you're going to need a camera. I do have a full video about cruise essentials. There aren't that many things that I think are really essential, but make sure you have your passport, make sure you have your cruise documents, and make sure you have travel insurance. Do not cruise without travel insurance. It could get really, really expensive if you were taken off the ship by helicopter and you had to go to hospital in a foreign country. It could get seriously expensive, so don't cruise without travel insurance. Number 15, if you're going on a cruise line that has formal nights, make sure you pack some formal clothes. Not all cruise lines have formal nights, and even if your cruise line does have formal nights, you don't have to take part in it. The dress code is normally only for the main dining room and you can go to the buffet quite happily or get room service. But if you would like to take part in formal nights, I do enjoy them. Make sure you bring a nice dress, make sure you bring a suit, make sure you just bring something that makes you feel happy and comfortable. Number 16, on embarkation day, arrive early. This could be the day before or early in the morning. The last thing that you want to do is start your cruise by rushing around, feeling that you're late. You've paid for that time on the cruise ship, so in my mind, I want to get on as soon as I can and I want to have lunch because I have paid for lunch. Make sure you're not stressed out. It's a horrible way to start a cruise. If you're cruising from a port that is far away in a different country, I always recommend you fly in the day before and stay in a hotel. I have done it before where I've flown into a place on the day that I am cruising. It is doable, it is a bit more stressful, but for me, I couldn't take the extra day off work, so it was kind of my only option. If you do have the option though, definitely fly to your port the night before, or if you've got a long drive, it's always a good idea to do that. Number 17, when embarking a cruise ship, pack your patience, you might need it. This one is true particularly of the bigger cruise lines. Sometimes they have 4, 5, 6,000 people to embark and everybody wants to get on at the same time. Bring your patience and just realize that it's gonna take as long as it takes. Getting stressed out about it is not gonna make it go any faster. Number 18, be ready to go through security because you're gonna have to. Embarking a cruise ship is very similar to going through security at an airport. Your bags will go through a scanner and you will also go through a scanner too. Just be ready for that. It's not normally as stressful as it is in an airport, but you are going to have to do it, so just be prepared. Number 19, when you check in, they'll give you a cruise card. Do not put this away as soon as they give it to you. You're going to need it. Your cruise card is everything when you cruise. Once you have your cruise card, you don't need your credit or debit card anymore. Real money does not matter. The only thing that you need is your cruise card. They'll give it to you when you check in at the port, and then you'll need it to get on the ship. You'll need it to get into your room. You'll need it to buy a drink. Some people do like having lanyards for their cards. I like putting mine in my phone case. Either way, just make sure that you don't put it away. Number 20, when you get on board, head straight to the main restaurant for lunch. Not many people know about this and it is a massive shame. Everybody embarks and goes straight to the buffet where it can be really busy. On a lot of cruise ships, the main dining room will be open for lunch and it's a much easier way to start your cruise. Number 21, explore the ship as soon as you can and as fast as you can. When you get on board, it's unlikely that your cabin will be ready. So what I like to do is I head to the top deck, I walk along the top deck, I go down, I go back, I go down, I go back, and I explore the entire ship when I get on board. I have a really bad sense of direction, so I have to work really hard on working these things out in my mind, but I'm so glad that I take that time to explore. Plus, it is the most exciting thing in the world. There's nothing quite like getting on a cruise ship and just running around and just seeing things. It is amazing. Do not skip this step. Make sure you explore. Number 22. One of the best things to do on embarkation day is to go swimming. A lot of people don't have their swimwear on them. It is in their luggage, it is out of their thoughts, and if you've pre-planned and put your swimwear in your hand luggage, you'll probably have the pool or a hot tub completely to yourself. Number 23, when you get on board, find the maitre d' and sort out your dining if you need to. Most cruise ships will either offer fixed or flexible dining. If you have got a cruise line that has fixed dining, and say for example they've given you the late seating and you want the early seating, they've given you a table for 10 and you prefer a table for 2, the best time to sort this out is on embarkation day. Head straight to the restaurant, the maitre d' will normally be there or someone will be there that can help you. They will try and sort things out as much as they can. If you haven't got what you want, it's definitely worth asking. Number 24, when you get into your cabin, put your suitcase underneath your bed. I thought that everybody did this, but it turns out not everyone knows this tip. There is loads of room under your bed in your cabin and it's the perfect place to put your suitcase. On some cruise lines, they will take away your suitcase for you, but others, it will just become an annoyance in your cabin and you'll want it out of the way. If you put it under your bed, you'll have no more problems and you can forget about it until you have to disembark. If you do find yourself getting confused at any point in this video, I do have a full blog post which details every one of these tips. It's available at cruisingisn'tjustforoldpeople.com and I'll put a link to it in the description. Number 25, if you want to understand what's going on board, make sure you read the daily schedule every day. Every night of your cruise, you'll be delivered a daily schedule which will tell you what is happening the next day. Make sure you sit down and you read this. It kind of is the most important thing you can have on your cruise. If the cruise line has an app, it will probably be on there. And if they don't, I would recommend you take a picture on your phone so that later when you're thinking, oh, did trivia start at 3 or half 3? You can just look at the picture and you'll know. It also has the opening times of all the bars and the restaurants on it, any promotions that are going on. It really is all in this leaflet. Number 26. Make sure that you don't miss the sunsets. It is very rare in my real life that I ever spend the time looking at the sunset. I'm always inside, I'm busy, I'm at work, I'm doing this, whatever I'm doing. I don't take the time to look at the sunset. But sunsets at sea are really something special. Make sure you just take a walk on the promenade deck and appreciate the sunset. Number 27. If you have any questions at any point during your cruise, make sure you ask the staff. They are there to help you. I'm the worst person for not wanting to disturb the staff, not wanting to be an inconvenience, but as long as you're polite and you say please and thank you, they're going to be more than happy to help you. I guarantee that whatever question you have, they've had it 1,000 times. They've done this cruise over and over and over again, so make use of them. Number 28, make sure that you walk lots to counteract all of the eating that you're gonna do. It's no lie, a cruise ship is full of food and it's really, really easy to overindulge. You can kind of counteract this by walking as much as you can. Even just doing a few laps of the ship on the promenade deck or the top deck, it can really add up. If you can too, also take the stairs, it really adds up. On one cruise ship day, I managed to do 99 flights of stairs, which is crazy. I wasn't particularly trying. I was just wandering around being like, oh, I'll go to my cabin, that's down 4. Oh, I'll go to the buffet, that's up 6. And it adds up so fast. Number 29, if you don't like your table mates, ask to change. On some cruise lines, you will be assigned a table and that is your table and that is your fixed dining, and it can be great. If you get great table mates, it is fantastic. But if you're sitting with someone and you just don't get on, they keep talking politics at the dinner table, ask to change. It happens all of the time. They're not going to think you're strange. They get this request probably every single day and they'll be more than happy to move you onto a different table, maybe one by yourself or a different group. There's no point not enjoying your dinner because you're sat next to horrible table mates. Number 30, if you have the chance, get to know your cabin steward. Cabin stewards are some of the nicest people I've ever met and they work so hard. They work way before I get up until way after I go to bed, and they still normally always have a smile on their face. They've probably done this cruise a million times, so if you ever have any questions about the port or maybe you'd like extra coat hangers in your cabin, ask them. They're more than happy to help you. Number 31, a cruise is a brilliant opportunity to make friends. Go for it. Sometimes I like to make friends when I cruise and sometimes I like to keep myself to myself, but that is what I love about cruising. The opportunity is there, and if you do or don't want to do it, that is fine. If you do want to make friends, it's so easy to join someone's trivia team or talk to someone at one of the bars when the entertainment's going on, sit next to someone at dinner or in the theatre. It's really, really easy, and everyone's normally in a good mood, so everyone's up for being friendly. Number 32, if you have kids, sign them up to the kids club on the first day. I actually started cruising when I was a kid. I was 11 years old on my first cruise and I loved it. I wouldn't be here where I am now if I hadn't been on that cruise and had a great time. If you do have kids, make sure you sign them up for the kids clubs on the first day so that they can make the most of their time on board. It's normally the case that the kids have such a good time at kids clubs that the parents actually get annoyed because the kids don't want to spend any time with their parents. They want to spend all of the time in the kids clubs. Some cruise ships are designed specifically for kids. I do have a list of my favourite cruise lines for families and I will link to that in the description. Check it out if you are considering cruising with kids. Cruising is brilliant for children and we should get more on there. It brings down the average age. Number 33, to try and save yourself some time when you're on board, remember where your cabin is. This one is much easier said than done. Cruise ship corridors can look all the same, the stairs are the same, the lifts are the same. It can be very tricky, but if you can spend some time at the beginning of your cruise learning how to get to your cabin, you will save time every single day that you're on that cruise. Number 34, if you get into your cabin and you are faced with a double bed but you're cruising with your brother, ask them to change the beds. I've actually known people who've been too embarrassed to ask to change the beds and they've just slept in a bed with their friend or something. If you don't like the bed configuration, you can either have twins or a double. Normally when you board a ship, the beds will be in a double bed. You can have the beds as twins, it's no problem. We do this all of the time. Every time I cruise with my brother, I normally find the cabin steward or leave him a note, and they do it almost straight away. They will do it before the first night, so don't worry, it will be okay. Number 35, if you see anything that you think will be useful and you need to remember it, take a photo of it. When I started doing this, it started to save me so much time. If you want to remember what is in a particular drink that you loved, take a photo of it. If you want to remember what time this bar is open, take a photo of the sign. If you want to remember what the dress code is, take a photo. My camera roll is thousands and thousands of photos of just, to anyone else they're rubbish, but to me they're really quite useful. So definitely take a picture of things if you need to remember them. Number 37. Check your onboard account throughout your cruise so you don't get a surprise at the end. It can be really tempting just to not look at your onboard account, but you don't want to do that. Sometimes cruise lines do make mistakes. They might add drinks that you haven't had or double charge you for something, and you want to be able to go straight to reception when that happens and say, excuse me, please remove these charges. It's so much harder to do on the last night. Everybody does it. And also, just keeping an eye on your bill is always a good idea. I know it doesn't always feel great, but at least then you don't have that dread at the end of your cruise. They will slip you a bill under your door on the last night, and if you don't know what's coming, that can make you feel awful. Number 38. When it comes to food, be adventurous. You don't have to cook the food, you don't have to wash up the plates afterwards, so be adventurous. Try something you don't even know what it is. I'm very guilty of ordering things off the menu when I don't even really know what they are. I'm not a big foodie, I'm not into cooking, so it's so nice for me to be able to try these things, and when I like them, I can cook them myself at home. When trying new things, it's always nice if you can have them for the first time cooked by a very, very good chef. Number 39. It's always a good idea to go to the main dining room on the first night of your cruise. It can be tempting just to go to the buffet on the first night of your cruise, but I would recommend going to the main dining room. You get an idea of what food there is, what service there is, who your table mates are, and you can sort things out if you don't like them. If you go to the main dining room on the first night, then you'll know if you want to make reservations for any of the other specialty restaurants. I normally don't, I normally just eat the food that is included in the cruise fare, but I know a lot of people who love their specialty dining. Number 40. Try table sharing, you never know who you'll meet. On my last P&O cruise, we actually decided to table share, and we had a table for 10. Everyone on that table was so funny, we had such a good time that we actually agreed to meet up again on the last night to see how our cruise had gone, and it was a really, really positive experience. It was lots of fun, and I would recommend trying table sharing. You might not like it, sometimes you just want to be by yourself, but give it a go, at least once. Number 41. Make the most out of the waiters in the restaurants and ask them questions. On cruises, they'll normally have a set amount of things that will be on the menu, and they will come around again and again and again. If you're only on for a week, you would never notice, but if you're one of the waiters, you will know those dishes inside out. If you have a question like, oh, is there cream in this soup? They will know the answer to it, and if they don't, they'll find someone that does. Make the most out of your waiters because they can really help with the whole experience. Number 42. Go to the main dining room for breakfast and you'll be waited on. It is much better than fighting for your food in the buffet. That tip actually came from my mum, and I don't necessarily agree with it. Sorry, mum. Mum always gets up early and goes to the main dining room to be waited on, and I'm normally having breakfast at the last minute in the buffet. I do agree that it is great to go to the main dining room for breakfast, but it will normally close at 9 or 10, and I normally roll out of bed on a cruise later than that, and will probably just grab something easy from the buffet. If you do want to be waited on, definitely head to the main dining room. It's a much easier, more relaxing, peaceful way of having breakfast, but you might have to get up earlier. Depends what you like. Number 43. When you sit down at the table, make sure that your waiter knows if you have any allergies, intolerances, dietary restrictions. Even if you've told the cruise line before, make sure that your waiter right there and then knows. On some cruise lines where you have flexible dining, you'll never have the same waiter twice, so it's extra important to tell them if you have any special dietary requirements. On some cruise lines, they'll ask every single person who comes in at the beginning of the meal if they have any allergies or intolerances, which I think is very nice, but not all cruise lines do that at the moment. Number 44, don't assume that you just have to stick to one starter, one main, and one dessert. If you want to have 2 starters and then have a dessert for your main, and then have a starter for your dessert, you can do that. You're on a cruise, you can do whatever you'd like. Don't assume that you just have to have one of each thing too. If you can't make your mind up between 2 desserts, have both, it's fine. Number 45. Don't feel like you have to go to the main dining room. Sometimes it's good to skip it. There is a lot more to cruise ship dining than just the main restaurant. You can go to the buffet, you can get room service, there'll be loads of specialty restaurants on board, and sometimes it's nice to do something different. Don't worry about not going to the main dining room. You don't have to tell anybody, you just don't show up and it'll be fine. They'll carry on without you. Number 46. Don't be afraid to have a pool day and just stay on the ship. Having a day when everybody else is off exploring the port and you can have the pool almost to yourself and the bars and the lounges, there'll still be things going on board on a port day. There's probably less than there would be on a sea day, but there's still stuff going on. You will find a lot of people do stay on board at some point during their cruise. Number 47. Remember that when you see a cruise fare, this is for one person, but it's based on 2 people sharing. If you're cruising solo, it is normally more expensive. They'll charge you something extra to make up for the missing person who's not in your cabin, who might have been spending money on drinks and in the casino, because that is how cruise lines make a lot of their money. Sometimes one person in a 2-person cabin will have to pay double. They'll have to pay for them and the imaginary person. Sometimes they'll have to pay maybe 50% extra. It's definitely worth doing your research if you are cruising solo, because it is a bit more tricky. Number 38. If you're considering a cruise on your own, consider cruising with Norwegian Cruise Line. Norwegian has specific solo cabins, and they have a kind of solo area of the ship where there will be a solo lounge and all of the solo cabins will be there. It's good because it's not only a cabin that's just priced for one person, although that is good, but it's also a place for solo cruisers to meet up, and they do meetups and events for solo cruisers too. If you are cruising solo, Norwegian Cruise Line are definitely one of the best. Number 49. Another great option if you're cruising solo is to consider a cruise with P&O or Saga. P&O and Saga both provide a very British cruise experience, and they both have solo balcony cabins. Most of the time when cruise lines have solo cabins, they're inside, they're small, they're dark, they're kind of depressing, but on P&O and Saga they have amazing solo balcony cabins. Number 50. Make friends before you go on a cruise. If you would like to make friends before you cruise, you can do this in a number of ways. Most cruises will have a roll call on a website called Cruise Critic, which will be lots of people who are on that cruise. You might find the similar version on Facebook too. If you're not already in our Facebook group, please make sure you join it. It's a brilliant community, and that is where all of the tips from this video came from. Number 51. If you want to make friends when you're cruising, request a big table for dinner. This one's particularly important if you are cruising solo, because a big table for dinner means lots and lots of opportunities to make friends and many chances that you'll find someone that you really get on with. Number 52. If you're cruising solo, do whatever you'd like to do whenever you'd like to do it. One of the best things about cruising solo is that you don't have to please anybody else. You do you. Number 53. When cruising, you might have to take a tender to get to some ports. Make sure you're aware of this, and if you don't want a tender, book a cruise that doesn't involve tendering. Tendering is when you use a little boat, which is either a lifeboat or a local boat, and that boat takes you from the cruise ship to the port. I quite enjoy it. I see it as a free boat trip. I actually don't get seasick on tenders, even though I get seasick on cruise ships and I get travel sick everywhere. I think it's just because it's out in the fresh air, it doesn't make me feel seasick. When you book a cruise, you'll be able to see if the port is tendered or if it is docked. If you don't want a tender, make sure you book a cruise that has all docked ports. Number 54. Remember that you don't have to take excursions in every port. You're completely free just to wander off and do your own thing. I think a lot of first-time cruisers think that they need to take excursions in every port because, of course, that is what the cruise line wants you to believe. They want you to book their excursions because that's how they make money, but you don't have to do that. If you're taking a Mediterranean cruise, a Baltic cruise, a Canary Islands cruise, most cruises in Europe, really, you don't have to do excursions. You can normally just get off by yourself, wander around. You might want to do a bit of research into maybe transport before, if you're going to have to use any local transport, but it's totally possible to do an entire cruise without ever doing an excursion. I do it all the time. Number 55. If you're a first-time cruiser and you would like a bit more security, consider an excursion with the cruise line. Taking an excursion with the cruise line normally is the easiest way to see things. They'll pick you up, they'll look after you. It's just that they're a bit expensive for me. The main perk of taking an excursion with the cruise line is that if something happened and the transport was delayed, the ship will wait for its own excursions. So you don't have to worry about ever missing the ship. If you're on an excursion, they'll look after you. It's their problem. Number 56. If you do decide to do excursions by yourself, make sure that you're back with loads of time to spare. I normally do things by myself, but I make sure that I'm back on board probably 2 hours before the time that you have to be on board. I know for some people that sounds kind of crazy, but say we dock at 9 AM and we have to be back by 5, I'll probably be back on board at about 3. I get very stressed if I think I might be late. This isn't just in cruising, I think it's just a personality trait of mine. But if you are doing your own thing, make sure you leave time for things to go wrong. The last thing that you want is the cruise ship to leave without you. Number 58. You can book excursions that are really similar to the cruise line's excursions, but they're just with independent companies. There are a lot of companies that focus only on doing excursions for cruise lines. They're normally really easy, almost as easy as booking an excursion through the cruise line. The bad points really is that the ship would not wait if one of these excursions was laid back, and it is a little bit more organisation for you rather than just booking with the cruise line. Number 59, if you don't like the time that you've been given to disembark, you can go to reception and try and change it. When you disembark a cruise ship, you'll normally leave your suitcases out the night before, and you'll be given a time to disembark to meet your suitcases on land. If the time really doesn't suit you, it is worth going to reception and trying to change it. I've done it before, it's not been a problem. It's always worth asking. Number 60, make sure you bring an overnight bag with everything you need for the morning of disembarkation. When you leave your suitcase out the night before, it will be taken away and you won't see it again until you're on land. So it'll be very easy to get your pajamas on, put your suitcase out, and then realise you have no clothes for the morning and you'd have to get off in your pajamas, which would be very embarrassing. So make sure you keep an overnight bag with medicines in it, your passports, your most expensive things that you don't want to lose, and a change of clothes for the morning. Number 61. Take your time disembarking and do it slowly. Some people don't want to rush on disembarkation day. Maybe you've got a while to wait until your flight home, and it's completely fine to spend every minute that you can on the ship until they call you to disembark. You can have a leisurely breakfast, you can just hang out in one of the bars and lounges, and when you need to go, they will tell you, so don't worry. Number 62. If you're in a rush, you can disembark fast. You don't even have to leave your bags out the night before. On most cruise lines, you're able to self-disembark, which means that you walk off with your bags, and this is the fastest and I think easiest way to disembark. I normally get out my cabin, I skip breakfast, I take my bag, I get straight off the ship and I go home. When skipping breakfast, sometimes I will bring a banana from the buffet the night before and keep it in my room, but that's about as far as I get with breakfast. Number 63. Make sure you check your safe, check it twice, check it 3 times, and check it again. You do not want to leave anything in your safe or anywhere in your cabin. It can be very, very hard to get them back. The cabin stewards will normally find them and hand them in, hopefully to the port. If they don't find them, then that thing will be off on another cruise and it can be very, very difficult to get back. So make sure you check it again, and check it again, again. Get someone else to check it, and then check it again. Number 64. If the main dining room is open on disembarkation day, make sure you go there. The buffet on disembarkation day can be chaos because everybody is there and everybody is getting off. That's why I normally miss it, just because it's crazy, you probably won't get a seat. If the main dining room is open, that's brilliant, definitely take that option. Number 65. If you can drag out your cruise, make sure you do. Take another excursion, stay another night in a hotel, do anything you can. Disembarking a cruise is absolutely horrible and the cruise blues hit really hard. If you can drag it out and spend a couple more nights in the place where you're disembarking, that's brilliant. Even if you just want to do an excursion on the day you get off, do it. Drag it out as much as you can. Number 66. Make sure you're nice to the crew. They work really hard, they work really long hours, and they work for months at a time, far away from their families. Just be polite. Good manners cost nothing. There's not a lot that annoys me more than when I see someone being rude to their waiter or cabin steward. It's just not necessary. They work so hard, just say please and thank you and smile. It's not that difficult, but it will make a massive difference to them. Number 67. Go on your cruise with an open mind. Leave your negativity at home. You don't have to cook, clean, or drive. Have a plan if you'd like to, but don't try and predict your cruise. Let it take you wherever it takes you. I think this one is important, and sometimes people do forget their cruise attitude. Even the worst day in the world on a cruise really isn't bad. I can't think of a bad day on a cruise, and it's 1,000 times better than being at work. You don't have to do anything for yourself when you're on a cruise. Just sit back and enjoy it. If you've made it all the way through this video, I'm insanely proud of you. If you go on your first cruise armed with this information, you're going to know more than 99% of first-time cruisers. Please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.